So if you've ever opened a Philips catalog, you may have seen that we've had the privilege of selling some of the world's most historically important watches. Pieces that are museum quality, pieces that belong to some of the world's most extraordinary private collections, and pieces that we get to handle for a couple of weeks, a couple of months, knowing that we'll probably never see them after an auction. There are plenty of watches like that in the Geneva Watch Auction XIII, the first series 2499, the Cloisonné 2523 with the Eurasia dial, and many more. But sometimes you don't want an intellectually stimulating watch. Sometimes you just want something that makes you feel unbelievably cool, and that's what I have with me today. It's an MB&F LM101 made in collaboration with HODINKEE in 2015. When it was introduced in 2014, the LM101 became the latest entry-level piece in the Legacy Machine collection, a collection of mostly classically styled pieces from the independent brand MB&F. And it was also a milestone for the brand because it introduced a couple of very important novelties. The first is the 40mm case, which was the smallest case in the collection and, in my opinion, makes it the most wearable. On the wrist, it just feels unbelievably comfortable. The other thing that this watch introduced was a new and first in-house movement by MB&F. It was, unlike the other pieces that came before it, the first one that was entirely conceived and developed by MB&F with the help of Monsieur Kari Voutilainen, whose signature is at the back of the watch on the movement, but we'll have a look at that later. A year after the release of the LM101, Max Busser decided to collaborate with another friend, but this time not a watchmaker. He decided to partner with Ben Clymer of HODINKEE. Now, some of you will know that before working for Philips, I worked for HODINKEE. Unfortunately, I joined the team a few years after this watch was developed. I say unfortunately because I would have loved to be part of that team, to work on this watch with Max Busser, with Ben, and I would have put everything that I owned, and I really didn't own much, to be able to buy this piece. Only 10 were made, only 10 lucky collectors were able to get their hands on this watch. And I'm gonna talk about this particular piece and why it's so cool in a moment now. So the LM101, which was made for HODINKEE, introduces a couple of firsts for the brand. It was the first MB&F legacy machine made in stainless steel, and it was the first MB&F to feature a brown dial. Now, I love salmon dials, I love blue dials, but when you look at this dial, which rests underneath, dominated by the flying balance wheel, and is offset by two beautiful lacquer dials, which display the time and the 45-hour power reserve, when you look at this dial, you wonder, why aren't other watchmakers developing brown dials? Now, flip the watch over and you see really a very beautiful example of high-end finishing in an independent made watch. The wide Geneva stripes, the deep bevels. This, I think, is a very important piece because it marks a turning point, really, when collaborative pieces back then were seen as a risk by many watchmakers, and for understandable reasons, now are incredibly, incredibly popular. I think this piece, we really need to celebrate the foresight of Max Busser and of Ben. They created something really wonderful and something that would change the face of the industry.